Welcome to Maritime Pakistan, your gateway to the fascinating world of oceans and the opportunities they present to every one of us. We have explored naval warfare through the book, Fleet Tactics and Coastal Combat. Today, we're diving into the 14th chapter of the 3rd edition, titled Log Entries. Now, the book presents this chapter as a kind of captain's log, and I love that. It's like we're getting access to years of hard-won wisdom, all distilled down for anyone trying to navigate the very complex storms of modern naval battle. So let's see what we can learn from these entries.
So, the book starts us off with a huge question, really the big one. In all the chaos of modern naval warfare, with all the sensors, the missiles, the split-second decisions, what actually separates victory from defeat? What does it really take to win? That's the core question we're going to tackle today. And to answer that, here's our game plan. We're going to break down the key insights from this chapter. We'll start with the core philosophy and what it calls the captain's log. Then we'll get into the absolutely critical Battle of First Salvo. After that, we'll explore a commander's big dilemma, stealth or force. We'll look at the commander's playbook, which is all about doctrine, and finally, we'll see how it all comes together in practice for war.
All right, first up, the captain's log. The book uses this fantastic metaphor, framing its key lessons as safe anchorages against the storms of battle. These are the foundational ideas, the principles meant to keep a fleet steady when everything around it is pure chaos.
And here is the first major anchor point. The book draws a really sharp line between war on land and war at sea. On land, sometimes a clever maneuver, a brilliant flanking move can win the day. But at sea, it's often a much more brutal contest of attrition. Victory, as it says right here, goes to the fleet that can attack effectively first.
This idea brings us to a concept from the famous Soviet Admiral Gorshakov, the Battle of the First Salvo. It sounds simple, right? Just shoot first. But as we're about to see, winning this battle is actually an incredibly complex, high-speed process. It's a race. So, how do you win that race? The book breaks it down into this intense 4-step sprint. First, you've got scouting. You have to find the other guy before they find you. Simple but crucial. Second, processing. You have to take all that raw data and turn it into a clear picture of the battlefield faster than your opponent. Third, positioning. You use that intelligence to get your ships, your subs, your planes into the perfect spot to strike. And finally, delivery. And I love the emphasis here. It's not about how many missiles you have sitting in your arsenal. It's about how much firepower you can actually deliver on target, effectively, when it counts.
And this quote from the Russian Vice Admiral Makarov just hits the nail on the head. A good gun causes victory, armor only postpones defeat. In other words, your offensive power is what wins the fight. Being able to take a punch is great, sure, but it's pretty useless if you can't throw a knockout blow yourself.
Okay, so if offense is king, how do you actually achieve it? Well, this leads to a fundamental choice, a real dilemma that every modern commander has to face. It's a choice between two totally different ways of fighting.
So, which path do you take? Do you go with active defense? This means you mass your forces together. You create this powerful, cooperative shield that's designed to soak up and defeat the enemy's first attack. The downside? You're loud, you're visible, they know you're coming. Or do you go for a stealthy offense? This means you spread your forces out, you move quietly, you use surprise and deception to try and land that crippling first blow before the enemy even knows what hit him. The book is clear. There's no single right answer here. The advantage is always shifting depending on the technology and the specific situation. Now, with such complicated choices to make in the heat of battle, how does a fleet make sure that everyone, and I mean everyone, is on the same page when the missiles start flying? Well, that's where something called doctrine comes in. It is the essential playbook for the entire team.
And I just love the analogy the book uses here. Doctrine is like a football team's playbook. It's a set of standard principles, standard procedures that make sure thousands of people across dozens of ships are all thinking along the same lines. But, and this is important, it's not supposed to be rigid. Just like a great quarterback can change the play at the line of scrimmage, good doctrine empowers commanders to adapt and use their own initiative.
Of course, a playbook is totally useless if you don't practice the plays. And for navies, the training ground for tactics and for doctrine has, for a very long time, been the wargame. And this is not a new idea at all. It has a really rich and influential history.
You just have to look at the period between World War I and World War II. The US Naval War College wasn't just playing games for fun. Wargaming was their #1 analytical tool. For over 2 decades, they meticulously tested their tactics, their technology, and their plans right there on the game floor, getting ready for a war they really hoped would never come, but knew they had to be prepared for. And if you want to see just how laser-focused this practice was, look at this number, 127. The book reveals that between the wars, the US Naval War College played 137 major tactical war games. And get this, of those, an absolutely incredible 127 were played against a single potential adversary, codenamed Orange, which was of course the Empire of Japan. That level of focus is just staggering, and it directly shaped the entire US strategy for the Pacific War.
So what's the final log entry? What's the big takeaway from this chapter? Well, in our age of satellites, hypersonic missiles, and cyber warfare, it's pretty easy to think that big surface fleets might be obsolete. But the book argues for an enduring truth. As long as humanity depends on the sea for trade, for resources, for our very way of life, nations will need navies to protect those lifelines. The technology and the tactics, they're going to change constantly. But that fundamental need for control and influence at sea, that remains. We hope that you liked today's video. Post your questions in the comment section for future videos.